It's no secret that AI is all the rage right now, with every day feeling like we're inching closer and closer to a dystopian hellscape where humanity is serving our robot overlords. In this series, we're going to see how close we really are to that by having Chat GPT take on every Runescape boss. And we answer the question, can Chat GPT beat Runescape? Now I hear you all asking, how can Chat GPT play Runescape? So let's go over the rules. Well, first off, we can ask any number of questions. However, we can only perform actions that Chat GPT explicitly says, and we must follow those instructions to the letter. We also will follow only actual instructions. This means we can't make any assumptions on what Chat GPT is saying. We can also not follow recommendations. So if it says we can do something or we may do something, we're not going to do it unless it actually tells us specifically what to do. We also won't be following any vague wording. However, we will be allowed to ask for clarification if anything is vague. And finally, we can only provide it with information for things that are happening or has happened while doing this run. So I won't be able to use any of my actual knowledge of the game in order to help Chat GPT tell me what to do. Without further ado, let's get into it. So we head over to the Chat GPT website and we introduce ourselves to Chat GPT and explain the challenge to it. Unfortunately, right away, we run into our first major roadblock, and that is because one of its responses, it explained to me that it only has data up to September 2021, meaning it has no knowledge of Corrosis, Archglacior, Zuck, Zami, Hermod, or Raziel. But hey, that's a problem for future Dr. ChatGPT MD. Because ChatGPT is in charge of this run, their next question is what boss we start out with. And it has decided that we're going to open with Giant Mole. Now we got some good and bad news in regards to what ChatGPT has said about the Giant Mole. First off, it hasn't actually given me an actual gear setup to use. It's saying melee gear is recommended, and as I said, we're not taking recommendations. Armor, it's recommending dragon or better, but again, it has not given me an actual recommendation except for the weapon. It did say a high tier melee weapon like the Dragon Scimitar or better. However, I need a specific item. It did also tell me to bring food for healing and some prayer potions. However, it did not say how many. We're going to argue with ChatGPT to clear this up. Also, it is giving me a specific instruction saying activate protect from melee to reduce incoming damage. Use basic abilities like slice, punish, or sever to build adrenaline. So I get 3 basic abilities to use. Thresholds, it's saying when my adrenaline's at 50, use a threshold like assault or destroy. So I'm allowed to use each of those at 50. However, it's not telling me to use any ultimates, so we're not going to be using those. Special attacks, it's telling me what they are and how to avoid them, so I will be able to do that. And for food and healing, it's saying eat food as needed to maintain your health. Sounds kind of vague to me. After a little bit of arguing back and forth with ChatGPT, we finally have a full gear set and specific instructions on how to collect the items that we don't have. So we go and buy ourselves the Nezi Helm, a Rune Plate Body, Rune Plate Legs, buy ourselves a Dragon Scimitar, and enchant an Amulet of Strength, as well as buy some Barrow's Gloves. We also have specific instructions on when we should be eating at 60 or 70% and when we should be drinking our prayer potions at 20 to 30 points. So let's get ready to take on the mole. So we have our gear and loadout complete. We have a Nezi Helm, a Rune Plate Body, Rune Plate Legs, Laceration Boots, Barrow's Gloves, a main hand Dragon Scimitar with no offhand, and an Ardougne Cloak 4. It's also given us the Luck of the Dwarves to be able to use. As for our inventory, it is telling us we're going to be using 10 total sharks and 4 prayer restore potions. For the prayer, we're going to be activating nothing but protect from melee. As for the abilities that we can use, again, it's given us 3 basics of slice, sever, and punish. We are allowed to use assault when we get to 50% adrenaline, and then we're going to be using berserk if we ever get to 100%. Before we go take on the mole, I want to ask my partner in crime if there's anything it wants to say to you guys. And of course, it replies with making sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button. We make our way to Falador and into Falador Park, where we dive deep into the mole's lair, where we meet our first foe, the giant mole. We charge in at the mole, and honestly, the fight starts out absolutely a-okay, which is as expected since it is, just the giant mole. But then, this happens. Unfortunately, Chat GPT did not give me instructions on what to do if when the mole digs. So we had to go back over to Chat GPT and have a little bit of an argument with it, going back and forth until I got specific instructions on what to do when the mole digs. Eventually, we do get these instructions talking about the molehill, so I am now able to follow the giant mole. We run down the mole into its next chamber, where we continue to fight it and throw in a berserk and an assault. Nothing else special happens in this, but the mole digs and we decide to chase it one more time. In the next chamber, the mole summons some new friends. Luckily, ChatGPT had informed me to ignore these guys, so we continue beating on the mole and get him into the next phase where he moves to the next chamber. And yet again, we follow him to chamber number 3. The following chamber has a little bit more of the same, but I'm getting dug on and hit, so I took some damage here. We still phase him into the next phase, however. In the final chamber, we have to get hit by the rockfall because ChatGPT did not tell me what to do with dealing with the rockfall. We still end up phasing it and moving on to the end of the fight. With the giant mole's lifespan coming to an end, I realized that I failed at following ChatGPT's instructions completely and haven't been eating, so I had to finish up by spam eating a bunch of my sharks here. We end up killing the mole and grabbing our loot. With our victory over the giant mole secured, we head over to ChatGPT and inform ChatGPT about our triumph. We then ask what our next challenge is going to be, and we get stabbed in the back by ChatGPT because it selects a Raxor. If you've seen any of my content before, you know a Raxor is the bane of my existence, and if the giant mole is anything to go by, a ChatGPT telling me what to do should be very interesting. So if you want to catch that, be sure to like and subscribe. I'm also looking for any feedback on the new series, so if you would like, please leave a comment and we greatly appreciate it. As always, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys soon.